City volunteers conduct image assessment aftermath of Cranston fire in California. Kaohsiung Social Affairs Bureau launches Father and Child Day to engage men in parenting. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Su. Thank you for joining us. In the United States, arson is suspected of starting a wildfire in Cranston, California's Riverside County. After a week, the fire has finally been contained. In the aftermath of this fire disaster, volunteers from Tzu Chi U.S. headquarters immediately headed to the disaster area to conduct damage assessments. They plan to distribute cash cards soon to help the affected residents get through the tough times. In the aftermath of the massive fire, ashes are all that is left on two sides of the state highway, and arson is suspected as the reason that caused the wildfire in Riverside County on July 25th.
The trees are the thing that is the hardest for me. They were much older than the house and much harder to replace. Like, I'll never see trees like that on this property again.
Volunteers from the Tzu Chi U.S. headquarters headed to Idlewild to assess the damages. As the fire department captain led the volunteers to the disaster site, many affected residents were also present at their homes. They were found rummaging for any items that might have survived the fire.
I thought I was going to come here and get a few things that may have survived, but it really looks like even the metal is twisted, and some of the beautiful lamps that Daryl, the former owner, made are unrecognizable. They were metal, beautiful objects of art.
Because of the loss of power, they lost all their refrigerated goods, all their freezer goods, all their perishables, and then, you know, they can't cook for themselves. So it's been quite a trial. In fact, even till today, we still have areas that are without power.
After assessing the damages, the volunteers make note of the conditions of the affected residents. They plan to coordinate with other organizations in order to deliver the needed supplies to the affected residents. A strong earthquake occurred again in Lombok. Indonesia City volunteers immediately mobilized the team and prepared aid supplies. Due to strict airport access, the disaster relief team took a military plane to the hardest hit area. This time there were a total of 20 volunteers and a 9-person medical team. Let's join them there.
Upon learning about the earthquake in Lombok, Tzu Chi Indonesia chapter mobilized to prepare aid materials. Not only were the volunteers busy getting ready, but the staff came right after getting off of work as well.
We want to help the affected residents. I hope that our assistance can create more compassion and kindness in people, also give direct help to them.
Helping the affected residents is our responsibility. We're very thankful that we have a chance to help the people in Lombok.
The airports have limited access. Only military planes are allowed at the moment, and even the amount of material goods are being strictly controlled. This time, there were a total of 13 tons of aid materials, 5 tons of rice, 200 boxes of DaAi noodles, 10 tents, 10 clinical beds, and 300 kilograms of medication. In addition to the 20 volunteers, there was also a 9-person medical team that went together.
What we were told was that the hospital was filled with patients. That's why we went with a whole medical team. If there was a greater need for doctors, we are already prepared, volunteers included.
The military aircraft that Tzu Chi volunteers took mainly headed toward the north, where no rescue organizations have yet entered. In addition to medical services, the site will also provide hot meals and emergency financial assistance.
The Sri Lankan village of Kalanitia is located in the mountains. Every day, the villagers have to cross a river to go to work or school. During the June rainy season, the community's only pontoon boat was damaged. City volunteers immediately began fundraising to help them build a brand new boat with railings for a safer river crossing.
During the last rainy season, the hull was seriously damaged, and for safety purposes, only 4 people can travel at a time.
We have to cross the river every day to go to school. During raining season, I may be late for class because the boat can't carry that many people.
The village needs a bridge, but before the bridge can be built, the boat that you provided has been a great help.
More than 100 people in the village rely on this boat. Otherwise, they'll have to take 3 different buses to go to work or school. Villagers knew that Tzu Chi was coming for a free clinic, and they made a special request for assistance. Volunteers immediately started fundraising, and within a month, a brand new pontoon boat was built. Later, the boat was transported along a bumpy road by a truck, eventually arriving at the village.
We're safer crossing the river, and my grandson is much safer going to school as we don't have to worry about the river anymore.
After this simple ceremony, this boat weighing hundreds of kilograms is brought to the river with villagers. Dharma masters lead a simple ceremony calling for peace and safety. Many are happy to see the boat has more railings, making it more safer for this river crossing, with weaker older women and children having a safer crossing.
When the rainy season comes, we only go to class 3 or 4 days a week. Now we don't need to worry anymore.
After alleviating this burden for these villagers, many children will be able to travel to school in a safer and more peaceful manner.
In China, Sichuan City volunteers are using the last part of summer vacation to visit scholarship recipients. They visited a total of 226 scholarship recipients in 3 rounds. Among the scholarship recipients is a normal university graduate who is now interning. She was eager to share her internship experiences with the volunteers. Here's more. Sichuan City volunteers have gone to the countryside to visit scholarship recipients before school starts. Since some of the houses do not have signs, the volunteers have to put in much efforts to find the exact locations.
As long as we have faith and love, we will overcome the difficulties and find our scholarship recipients. We are heading to their houses to give them some encouragement and comfort.
The volunteers overcame the long distances to reach the scholarship recipient's house. Li Pengna, who studies at Normal University, is now interning and eager to share her experiences with the volunteers.
In my heart, a good teacher is able to treat the students like her own children. I should let them learn in a joyful atmosphere. I hope they can learn while being really happy.
Li Pengna's mother has also joined as a volunteer.
In fact, I feel really happy. I feel joyful being with you, especially during our interactions. Being with you guys really brings me a lot of joy.
Li Pengna is very outgoing and willing to endure hardships. She's also very grateful. From her family, we can see a lot of hope.
Well, for some people, studying is a way to gain knowledge. However, for these children in the mountainous regions, pursuing education may be the only way to be lifted out of poverty. In our next report, we'll meet a Tzu Chi recipient whose parents left her when she was 3. Raised by her grandparents, she's very considerate. Although she goes to school in a different county, she goes home on weekends to accompany her family and help with household chores. She's also studying hard, hoping to become a music teacher in the future. Beautiful sound of piano is heard in this Sanheyuan in the mountainous regions of Miaoli. Whenever Lemei practices, her grandparents are her loyal listeners. Lemei's parents left her behind when she was 3. She's grateful for her grandparents who raised her.
I have to thank them for raising me. I live away from home. When I was in junior high school, my grandpa had to wake up at 5 a.m. to take me to ride the bus.
Lemei studies in Nantou Senior High School's music class, but she goes home on weekends to help with the household chores.
After she finishes taking a shower, she will do the laundry. Since she is the last person taking showers, she will wash and dry the clothes.
I am nearly 70 years old. I hope after she graduates from college, she can become independent and and contribute to the society.
可以多少要反馈给我们这个社会。
学长访视我也没有看到你呀，离家那么多年了。成绩他肯。
In terms of grades, she might not be number one, but in terms of moral character, she is excellent. She works very hard to learn violin and piano, which is her expertise.
The volunteers have watched her grow up, and they're just like a family.
They are like my family. They've always been by my side.
Despite not having her parents around her, Lemei still grew up being surrounded by people who care about her. She's now working hard to reach her dream of being a music teacher. Many people believe that Tainan has the most culturally significant monument and locations. However, the Tainan Cultural Bureau has made the threshold for preservation very high. Furthermore, if such location cannot connect with the surrounding community, it is likely it may simply become an abandoned and neglected location. Here's our report.
Urban aesthetics may not need to rely on the towering skylines, as old houses retain the history of the people. The Tainan city government even pays for the cost of people to repair old houses.
In the past, there may be no way to take care of this kind of ordinary houses because the level of this historical significance was not reached. Also, people who get subsidy won't feel like their house is a monument, as they may feel deprived of property rights.
The Tainan City Historic District Old House Subsidy Plan has continued for 6 years. As long as it was built before 1971 and has historical value but is not a cultural asset, one can apply for repair subsidies to maintain the old style of the building as much as possible and be open to the public, potentially receiving a subsidy of $26,000 US. When houses are old, many people think about tearing them down. But walking in here through this hallway shows the intricate craftsmanship, allows us to go back into an earlier era that is very fascinating.
The house was the first house in the alley, so it had windows on both sides. Later, other houses were built on both sides and the windows were covered.
In some places, older houses are worth more. This is the West Central District Haian Road, Section 2. When she bought this Japanese-style villa, the house was over 50 years old, and Xie Xuefeng spent more than $300,000 US, though talk of this being an old house led her to become quite animated.
It just brings me so much joy to see these artifacts still standing today. It really motivates me wanting to conserve these types of houses. This window is made from Taiwan cypress wood. It's a pity that when they installed air conditioning, they destroyed part of this as we hope to restore it.
When the house is repaired, Ms. Xie wants to run a youth hostel, as repairing these old houses is stimulating the economy of Tainan. The Cultural Bureau estimates that the subsidy to the private sector was about $750,000 US over the past 6 years, but has created some $4 million US in economic value. In the tourist areas, old houses can be a way to make money, while in rural areas it can be a burden. Even if it is a ruin, some people still try to save these buildings to retain memories for the village.
This is the old ingot and silver ingot. This is the oldest gold ingot shape, and above you, it is the same as the Grand Hotel. In the middle of this bath are characters representing the 5 fortunes.
When he was a child, Zhang Dingxing never knew who lived here. It wasn't until his son Zhang Guancheng proposed repairing a house to promote local agriculture that they find this historic mansion.
It was originally built by Mr. Zeng Boren. Because of his relationship with landlords and farmers, his land slowly got taken away, and later it was foreclosed by the court.
Repairing the old house helps retrieve the story of the area and also allows the younger generation to come home. Imbuing this area with a sense of history also improves the overall living environment.
If we let these monuments exist in the city alone and don't help these old houses or have any connection with them, they would be simply demolished and rebuilt. I think this type of attitude leads to a very precarious situation for monuments and cultural relics in the city.
Old houses are part of the lives of ordinary people. In the process of urban development, we must not forget the importance of cherishing history as we move on to the next century.
When it comes to parenting, is it just the mother's role in a family? The Kaohsiung Social Affairs Bureau had launched a Father and Child Day in recent years. For the event, a male family member is required to accompany the child. According to the observation of social workers, the norm had always been female companions that were always present with the child. Through this new initiative, they hope to increase the willingness of men to participate in these activities.
Listening to the instructions, follow the movements, the fun activities has just begun. The 33-year-old Mr. Young and his wife took their children to attend. Pay attention to the parents on the sideline. Mr. Young is not the only father who is present. In fact, this is one of the requirements. The course needs to be accompanied by a male parent.
We want to encourage men to accompany their children and be present through their growing process.
Of course, we all want to be there with our child, but with the busy work schedules, it doesn't leave much time for accompaniment.
Mr. Young says that it's hard for fathers to be present, mostly due to long working hours. According to the statistics from the Child Care Resource Center, more than half of the parent-child activity companions are mothers, followed by aunts and nannies. In order to break the cycle, a carefully thought-out program was designed.
It seems that not many children are under the care of their grandfathers.
The era is changing. I don't think there should be an exact designated parent that should be taking care of the child. I feel like in a family, every member should take responsibility in caring for the child.
Young people work while the retired folks take care of the grandchildren. Due to taking care of his grandson, Grandpa Young has learned how to use a smartphone. He likes to take photos of his grandson and has learned by doing.
In the past, including fathers, grandfathers, or even just male relatives, it didn't even add up to half of the companions. Now it's highly possible that 10 out of 10 groups will have the father figure present.
We need to change our old ways of thinking. Parenting is not just the female's role. As long as there's a willingness, anyone can be a good caregiver to the child.
With the recent heat wave, pediatricians are finding many babies developing rashes and high fevers. Doctors say that some children are wearing too much clothing, as parents are afraid their children may get cold. Unfortunately, too much sweat or even fever may be caused by an excess of clothing. Doctors say if a baby's neck is dry and not sweating, there's no need to wear so much.
This 6-month-old baby is very afraid of heat and will cry when she's uncomfortable.
If she becomes hot, it is very hard to calm her down. Where she drools, it is very easy for her to develop a rash by her mouth, and on the neck or the chin, it's easy to get eczema.
This child care specialist quickly helps her change into dry clothes, and she immediately smiles. Some wonder if children need to be kept warm, or what is the optimal amount of clothing.
If the weather is too hot, we give them thinner clothing.
I usually put on very thin clothes at home, sometimes even sleeping at night with air conditioning of 26-27 degrees. I let her simply sleep in a diaper.
A child's ability to regulate temperature is not that good, so if you cover them up too much, you could encounter some problems.
The doctor said that if the baby's hands and feet are cold, this does not mean the baby is cold. One should touch the back of the baby's neck to see if it is warm and dry to choose suitable clothes.
If the body temperature is higher, then it is harder for it to calm down. And as we talked about earlier, it's easier for them to develop eczema and diaper rash.
会把它放在这边这样子，然后去感受。
I'll put my hand here to feel if he's wet or if he's dry. Feel it.
Even in the air-conditioned room, babies do not need to wear too many clothes. A simple cotton shirt may be enough. The long-sleeve jacket, which could be added as another layer. Doctors remind everyone not to let your baby get too hot and sweaty.
In Changsha, Hunan Province, a 62-year-old mother has to take care of her daughter who has been paralyzed since 3 years old, and a harsh life has exhausted her. Fortunately, Tzu Chi volunteers have started caring for them since the winter aid distribution 3 years ago. Now the mother wants to be a giver in order to reciprocate the love they received.
Upon seeing volunteers' arrival, Li Shelan and her daughter welcomed them warmly as their own family. They soon have a fulfilling feast together. The 62-year-old mother takes care of the daughter who depends on her fully. In this house, volunteers' monthly visits are their happiest time.
I stay at home all the time unless I must go out. I'm very used to staying at home. If I go out, I normally walk, and I can return home within half an hour because I walk very fast.
Tzu Chi volunteers connected with them during the winter aid distributions in 2015. Since they discovered their difficult situation when conducting a home visit, they've been caring for them for 3 years.
3-4 years ago, my daughter was hospitalized and she hadn't eaten in a week. Since her life was in danger, I was very frustrated and I couldn't stop crying. On the one hand, I worried that she would die. On the other hand, I worried that it would be a heavy burden for me if she stays alive.
Nevertheless, Li Shelan has never seen her daughter as a burden. She not only keeps a positive mind, but she always expresses gratitude toward everything.
All of my neighbors in the village are very nice to us. They often bring food for my daughter and me when they go to the market. I felt truly blessed because my daughter has recovered about 70% of her health since Tzu Chi started to care for us. I'm thankful for all the kindness, especially to Dharma Master Zheng Yan, and I'm determined to continue passing down her spirit and missions.
Li Shelan has walked out of the shadow and faces the future with her optimism. Now she hopes to reciprocate the kindness through saving up in the bamboo coin bank to pass down the great love.
At the end of the program, we'll be an update on the disaster relief work in Indonesia. Tzu Chi's medical team and aid materials have now reached Lombok. What good news it is for the earthquake survivors. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.